Greetings everyone, and welcome to MOI. Today I have a product review on a solar panel I recently bought because I was trying to match it up with some of the existing solar panels I had for the 12-volt solar system I'm making a little video series on. This is version 3 of this video, so when you see the second half of it where I do the little repair on the panel, you'll know why there's a wardrobe change. Had a couple of learning experiences getting this working, and I can also see I'll have to adjust the lighting where the sun is for next time. But learning here, so hopefully you'll give me some slack and have a little patience with me. Anyways, here's the little solar panel I bought. It's made by Newpowa. I'll put a little link to it in the description if anyone wants to check it out. It's a 100-watt polycrystalline panel, and I was searching all over Amazon for something that matched up with either the amperage I needed or the voltage, and this happened to fit the bill. It's a 100-watt panel, and it's pretty standard normal. It cost $100 with shipping included, so your price point is about $1 per watt, and that isn't bad. And the build quality isn't bad either. There's a couple things I'm not entirely fully happy about, and we'll get into them. The glass here is apparently a tempered glass from their data sheet that I found. It's a little thinner than I would like, so I'm not entirely certain how well it's going to hold up to a heavy-duty hailstorm pounding. As a polycrystalline panel, it should perform decently with shading conditions, but we'll have to test that to find out. Now inside of here, you've got your standard bypass diodes, which I was happy to see. Now, to pop off this cover, because I wanted to see how things were connected and verify that there were at least some bypass diodes in there, you have to really carefully pry open the sides. I did not succeed. I very much broke every single little clip in there. So I have to repair this. So I'm going to inject some glue into the corners here, drill it out, tap it, put some screws in, and it'll work just fine. And yes, I am one of those people that takes apart things to make certain the thing is what it is, or that if it needs repair, I'll fix it right away. So this junction box here isn't a industry standard size junction box. There's a semi-industry standard size junction box that's a bit different than this. And there's actually companies that make some adapters and stuff that can go on those. But for this purpose, it didn't really matter for me. Now the one thing I really didn't like is these wires right here that were coming into this. They actually had soldered them open with no mechanical crimping into the panel. Now, I don't like that very much for two reasons. One is it's actually a slightly higher connection. Slightly. Not a lot, just slightly higher resistance connection. But the second part is there's no mechanical force other than the solder holding everything together. Now, if you've got a really good solder joint, it'll probably never, ever come off. However, if you have a solder joint where there's a little weakness in it, over time, as you've got heat cycles and stuff like that, it could theoretically crack and the wire can come out. And instead of theoretical, I've actually seen that, so it can happen. Yes, it does take a lot of time, but I'm not really interested in suddenly going, why did the solar panel quit working suddenly? And it's been, 6 or 7 years. So I actually went in, redid these, crimped them down, and then soldered them up. I also altered the way the nickel tabs here were coming out of the solar panels and connected in, and resoldered the joints for the bypass diodes. Yes, I'm rather OCD. I like to make certain things a certain way a lot of times, and probably for most people won't matter. But for me, since I was already in there, I was like, I'm going to go fix this. Now the other thing, this wire here is a metric wire size. It's not our standard American wire gauge and stuff. So then if you're going to need to redo anything and actually like recrimp these ends or stuff like that, I actually did recrimp these ends because it turns out that the panels I wired up for a little 12-volt solar system with all my old existing stuff are actually backwards from my big solar system. But since I was tying this in on the old 12-volt solar, I needed to reverse these from the industry standard. So I cut these off and put some new ends on here. Now the wire actually corresponded to close to a 12-gauge wire, and so I was able to crimp these on just fine to put some new ends on, which was nice. The wire leads, I only took a little bit off. Here, let me get the old pieces. So that's about how much I took off. The wire leads are kind of short, so if you've got some fairly decent runs you've got to do to plug things in with, that's going to be a little annoying on that. Now, there is no UL or ETL listing on this panel. However, it does have a CE rating. Now, oftentimes, electrical inspectors will be like, it's all right, no big major issue on that, and let it go. So you could hook this up for your house to do grid tie and just generalized electrical stuff for your house. Most electrical inspectors will not be a total Nazi and demand they want to see an ETL or UL listing on a panel. And I don't really have that many panels that actually have that on there, so they've been nice and lax out here. But I can never guarantee that you're not going to get some Nazi for your electrical inspector. Just how it is. Now, the original connectors it came on, they were a standard MC4 connector, but they're pretty cheaply made. So I'm kind of actually glad I put some brand new ones on anyways. So, but they'll probably work, but I wouldn't say they are great. Now, but the panel does seem fairly decently put together. It was shipped nicely. I didn't have any problems. Obviously, the glass is intact. I did hook it up to a charge controller and a meter, and I got the specifications out of it and full power. So I was very happy about that. Even though we are dipping into late fall, winter down here in the southwestern United States, we've got a lot of sun. We actually get about, you can pretty much get full ratings on a panel year round. Very nice. So I was very happy to see that this made full rating in slightly decreased sun conditions. Didn't have any issues with it on that. Now, if I wasn't looking for an exact match with amperage or with the voltage I was after, I'd probably consider some other brands. One of the other brands that's actually much more mainstream that has a very good build quality as well is a company called Rich Solar, and I've seen them on Amazon for $1 a watt as well. So I think if you were looking at panels, I'd probably, if I was going to buy it again and it didn't matter if I was trying to match up to an existing array, I'd buy some Rich Solar panels. But this, not bad. So I hope you like this video. I hope it was a little informative and gave you ideas about this little solar panel. I'll leave the details about it in the description, and you'll get to see the second half where I tried to do some repair work but didn't realize my big fat head was in the way. But you'll get an idea of what I was attempting to do. And so if you like the video, give me a like. Comments would be nice. Maybe add a subscribe. And imagine something, manifest it. Take care. All right, let's get this solar panel repaired and satisfy my OCD tendencies at the exact same time. Win-win. First thing we got to do is disconnect the diodes. In that case means heating up either tail, rocking the dial back and forth, and eventually gets it to release. Luckily, didn't have any problems on that. Worked out really well. Love it when that happens. Now, I tried to clean up the holes where the diodes came out of initially, just to sort of make my life easier. Next thing I needed to do was disconnect the nickel power wires that come out of the end of the solar panels. Those actually didn't give me much trouble. And as you can see, the wire leads disconnected very easily. I was really happy. With luck, this was going to go great. Now I needed to start cleaning up all the excess solder off of the ends, off of the electrical connectors. And there was a lot of excess solder. I was surprised at how much solder was on those from the factory. Meant heating them up, splashing off some of the extra solder, using a brush to scrape off some of the extra solder. There was a lot of solder. Now I had to go missing for a little bit here, so I needed to go to the bathroom, and pretty bad. The other thing was, I learned from this is, you know, it really wouldn't be better if I set up the system to do this inside at my regular solder bench, out of the weather and all that, make the camera angles nicer. Now the next thing we got to do is get these a little more ready for reuse. So I worked on getting the ends where the nickel wires go all opened up for the solder out of the way. I got the holes where the diodes go through all cleaned up, and let's start reusing them. Now luckily there were 3 connectors, and with one of them not having any use of it whatsoever, I was planning to use that to connect with the wires. Now the wire ends were actually in real bad shape, so got the strippers, cut off a spot, and cut them open and made myself a new, nice, clean end to work with. And that's when I also discovered the wire is pretty much exactly 12 gauge. It was really close. I didn't have anything damaged when using a 12 gauge hole for the stripping. Now, got the black connected onto the clean one, and it's soldered up without any trouble. I was real happy with that. At that point, I figured this project's going to go great. And I cursed myself. Don't do this. It's like asking the universe, what else could you do to me? So I started connecting up the positive lead, started heating it up, and I ran into trouble. That solder from China does not like my silver lead-free electrical solder. They were not getting along, and my solder joint was not working. I heated it up. I heated it up some more. I put some more solder on. I heated it up more. I stared at it. I squinted at it. It was not going to be friendly. So I was really starting to lose my patience. Got a real good look at it and thought, okay, that's it. I need some help. So run inside. Two things. I need an overshirt. The mosquitoes, they're still out there. It hasn't gotten cold enough. They are still thinking I am filet mignon and I am their best meal ever. I probably got 10, 12 bites just working on that. Second thing, I need some flux. So while I didn't have UL listed flux, I did have flux for silver lead-free solder. And for what I was doing, this was going to be perfect. It wasn't going to cause me any problems. Put some of that magic goop on there, heated it up. Yay, got a good connection. All right, let's start putting this back together. So I mount them back in the solar panel, clean up the holes a little bit, and now let's attach the diodes. Okay, we had a slight jump cut there on accident. Reason is one of my first YouTuber big mistakes, ran out of battery power. So quick reset. So the diodes are pretty much mostly connected, and I'm finishing that up right now. And the next step is going to be reconnecting the nickel tabs to the electrical connections. So I started preparing them and getting them ready. Put some little solder like that. Then it's a whole bunch of finagle them into the right place, bend them, finagle them, put my fingers in a little more, get myself cut a little bit. Those wire tabs were sharp. And then I could start soldering. Now, as you might imagine, I'm going to run into the exact same problem. My solder and the Chinesium solder were not getting along. I was not winning on this. So I worked on it, tried, worked on it, and I decided, oh, you know what? I'm probably going to need some flux. Why I didn't do this sooner, I don't know. But I got the flux, and then solder started bonding correctly. Wonderful. Got my first joint exactly what I wanted. So spent a little work on it to make certain it was exactly the way I wanted, and went over all the others real quick. And before I knew it, I had all my nickel tabs from the solar panels wired up to the electrical connections, and it was looking good. So just a little bit of poking, verification, and we're set. Now I'll brush it up, check it, make certain I'm happy. We're good. Now we're going to go over the final bits of this. So it's a little out of focus, I apologize, but my big fat head, perfectly in focus. Win on that level. So we blew out a little bit of the leftover bits in there. Now we're going to test to make certain I've got a good joint. What I'm going to use here is a milliohm meter, and I'm checking the resistance. So I'm looking for where the output of the solar panel goes through the solder joint and then goes into the wire. Initially, it was a little higher than I wanted. We're in the 3s. I really want to be in the 2s. Turned out that I needed to get a good connection on the side and press a little bit, and then I had a good measurement. And as you can see, we're in the 2s. Very good solder joints, meaning the solder is not what's carrying the electricity. So, hope you liked that. Hope you learned a little bit there. And feel free to ask any questions. Take care. Boy, I lost that train of thought hard.